today we're speaking about what lessons did I learn from my mum raising a dyslexic child, i.e. me. I feel this episode is extremely valuable if you're a parent that kid might have dyslexia. If you're interested in it, if you want to help them, some very, very key lessons I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but I'd argue is the most important lessons for parents to understand in order to help have that child have the best chance at growing up. So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. What's happening, guys? I hope we're doing good. Today I want to talk to us about what I learned from my mum raising a dyslexic child and lessons I've learned from her, because I've talked to her about it a lot because I'm quite into dyslexia, if you can't tell. And we've been having a few conversations, and I've really got what I really feel I got to the root of what she learned about raising a dyslexic child and being in this education system as well, and kind of how that fits in everything. I feel like there's some such valuable lessons in here that I want to speak about, that a lot of other people, when they talk about parents with dyslexia, about getting early diagnosis, getting help, getting support, can do this reading program, do multi-sensory approach, all this stuff. And I feel this is kind of surface level stuff. And it's not the fundamentals. It's not the fundamentals of, okay, here's the first thing you need to do. Here's, this you need to do. And I'm begin talking about it. So my mum, like I said, had a bit of experience working in schools. She was working in school at TA at a time. She used to be a teacher for a very short period of time. She's really good at art. She was an art teacher. So how this progressed was I was born in it. And then when she found out I had a lot of challenges with me, a lot of challenges with my reading, my writing, and the school was okay, let's get them tested. Let's see what's up. And literally, at about a couple years from reception, they noticed my language wasn't there. My language wasn't there. I wasn't doing certain things. My coordination wasn't there. And then from year one and year two, they realised, oh my God, you do not know how to speak at all. You do not know how to say any sounds. You can't remember anything. Having all these challenges, and they're okay, we're going to deal with it. We're the school. We know what to do. And I sort of visit the educational psychologist, and has an EHC plan, individual education plan, basically a plan to help me with my learning. And they look at it, they'll test it and review it. And I failed I remember looking back at all the paperwork. I was there for 4 years, failing every single one, saying we're trying to make Theo learn to say this letter or this sound, and fail. I'd fail all these ones, and it was fail after fail after fail after fail. And it began to be when I was looking at it, a bit amusing, but obviously at the time I hated it. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I couldn't do these things. And then as time progressed, I got worse and worse and worse. I had trouble sleeping at night. I had stomach cramps. I would have massive lash outs at home and lash outs in school. I turned to be the school bully, so because I thought I would rather hurt you before you have the chance to hurt me. And my mum, she was working. It's at that time, first couple of years being a single mum at that point, and so it was really hard for her. I don't blame her. It was really hard for her. But anyway, I was having loads of these challenges. I remember one day walking home from school, and I had so many challenges. My head was down, my shoulders were slumped. I just hated every damn moment I was alive, because I had such fear about the future, such fear about what was going to happen in the future, about am I going to learn, am I going to be able to read, am I going to be able to write? And then I remember we just turned the corner to go upstairs to go to my house. And I literally this is the first time I said this to my mum, but I remember thinking about it for ages, and mum was just trying to cheer me up. I grabbed my mum's hands, looked tight, squeezed her hand, pulled her arm down so she would look at me, and I said, Mum, I wish I was never born. I wish I was never alive. And I was 6 at the time. Can you imagine your 6-year-old son saying that they wish they were never born? And she obviously knew, because the struggles I was going through, it was blatantly obvious. She was worried about it a lot. But she knew one thing. She had experience working in the education system, and she knew how long these things take to get me tested, to get me diagnosed with something, to get me the proper help and support I needed. And so basically, when she found this out, it's like, okay, we have to do something. And she I called up my dad, like recently divorced, and she was like, I really don't like you at the moment, but we have to work together. For me, we have to work together to find out what's wrong with Theo. So they kind of like got together, not together, but you know what I mean. They're like, okay, let's do this thing together. And because my dad, when I was born, this is backstory, I had this thing called Crohn's when I was born, which means my nerve endings wasn't properly sorted out. So I would like move weirdly. Anyway, this was on my private healthcare plan, which my dad really likes. So basically, they looked back and these reports about Crohn's, they made some excuse. They know it wasn't true, but they basically made an excuse for why I need to see someone else, why I need to see like a doctor about why am I having these trouble sleeping, why am I having these stomach cramps, and why am I struggling in school. And the doctor does some tests, and it's okay. They ruled out all these things, then he referred me on to someone else. The person looked at me, done tests, referred me on to someone else. Eventually, I got an MRI scan. There's so many days I got sent out of school. I wasn't in school that I missed the school Christmas play that year on year 4, I think. I think it was year 4, or year 3. And like so many people I got kept getting referring one from another, all on the private education thing. And then I got sent to basically this person called Lindsay Peer. Lindsay Peer diagnosed me with dyslexia. And basically, and my parents were a bit like, well, how come no one diagnosed him earlier with dyslexia? Obviously, it was on the cards, but no one actually said, okay, this is dyslexia. And she basically drew out 3 circles, and see if I can remember the names. But I drew out 3 circles. In one circle, she wrote dyslexia. In the other circle, she wrote attention issue. In the other circle, she wrote speech and language problems. That's a name for it, I can't remember. And so basically said, Theo's a mixture of all 3. And that's why it's hard to pinpoint the one thing that was wrong, because he's got 3 different things. Which is great news for me. But the parents were like, okay, good, he's diagnosed. And Lindsay Peer said to my parents, unfortunately, Theo is diagnosed as one of the worst dyslexics in England. Because my stats were, off the chart. They had a category of okay, there's 5 different categories of dyslexia going from most mild to most severe. I was in the 0.5% category of the most severe category. So statistically, you know what I mean? And from there, that got to the point, okay, Theo needs to get the right help and right support. So basically, it was so lucky, my mum found out about this dyslexia called Brown's in Chelsfield, near, 30-minute drive from where I live. And I thought, that's perfect, I need to get Theo in there. So he booked me for a meeting with Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown even saw me, I think they saw my papers or whatever, or maybe gave me a little test. And they said, Mr. Brown, after he runs a dyslexic school, he owns a dyslexic school, over a decade of being at this, living and breathing dyslexia, he's like, Theo is only one of the worst kids. He's only seen 2 other kids nearly as bad as me. He said, we don't know if we can support him in our school. Bearing in mind, the school's got 25 full-time teachers and 50 kids. Bearing in mind that fact, less than 50 kids at the time. And they gave me a week trial. Now, here's the thing. My mum didn't really tell Keston because they weren't really getting on, because the Keston was like, oh, we can do it. Sorry, that's my primary school. Nothing against them. But they were like, oh, we can do it. We can help you. And that's following the normal procedure, but it takes too long. And I was like, no, I'm taking him out. And basically, my mum went to the school and said, I'm taking Theo out of the school to go to another school. Like, you mean 1 day notice? And the school was like, well, is this legal? So it took me out, put me in the other school, but put me in this dyslexic school. And you had to pay for it. It's a private school. My mum did not have any money to pay for it. It's like, you mean over 10 grand a term, like 20 grand, I think, over 20 grand a term. She didn't have any money to pay for it. So I think maybe it's 16, I'm not sure. But she had to, here's the interesting thing, she had to battle in court to get me a statement, because I was diagnosed with dyslexia, but the statement, in terms of, she had to battle in court, not to see where, because I had a statement at the time. Statement is basically, okay, you can get money because you need help. the government's going to give you that money because you have a recognised learning disability. But where the statement going to go is the statement going to go to my primary school, Keston, which is like a normal state school, and the money go to that, or is the statement going to increase and go to a dyslexic school? Because, like, for example, depending on how much help I need, depending on how much the statement is, because if I was going to stay at the dyslexic school, the statement would cover my tuition there. But if it's going to go to the primary school, then it would help them out because the school would have a lot more money to play with. And because normally they'll just fight in courts, like normally just to prove the court it's true, not really have anybody against them. But by primary school, they were against me. The head teacher from that school was against my mum and my dad. From seeing the statement goes, and like, you mean there's a lot of bad blood there, and mum spent a hell of a lot fighting this court case. And I got into that school, and yeah, that's kind of the end. Like, because once mum fought, she got me into this school. It's like, okay, that's everything even sorted. But I want to like emphasize a few really, really important points in that story. First point is so critically important. It's how she was able to take me out of my primary school and put me into this private school with only a day's notice to the school. Now, why is she able to do that? She's able to do that because she's my mum. Because basically what she learned is that, because she didn't know this at the start, but she learned through experience, is that you as a mother, you as a parent, you basically own the child technically before it turns 18. You have the most control. You have the most say about what you want, about how you want it done. And you know what I mean, if you're not happy with something, you can do it. You can cause the school really a lot of havoc because it's your child. It's your child, especially if they've got difficulties, especially if they've got that. So you have to really really look after the child, and you have to really put your foot in the door and really start speaking out. That's the first thing. Like, you as a parent have so much power. The school may say things like, you may say, oh, we got it sorted. But you as a parent have the ultimate power, the ultimate say in things, okay? Secondly, is that this is the most important point, I think, is that, you know, when I talk to my mum saying, I don't want to live anymore, I wish I was never born. In that moment, my mum did something which previously she didn't fully do. Take 100% responsibility for my learning. Take 100% responsibility for, basically finding out what's wrong with me. Because before, of course she wanted me to improve. But she didn't know, how to, or she didn't take full ownership over taking actions to do that. But once she realised, look, okay, Theo's really hurting here, I can't have this anymore, she took 100% responsibility and did whatever she had to do to find me the help and support. And this is what parents need to do. Because I'm not saying, it's not about a matter of caring, it's not about a matter of wanting the best for your child, it's about a matter of realising something. You are responsible for your child's learning. And of course the school's responsible, but also you're 100% responsible. And it's possible for two people to be 100% responsible for the same outcome. Because, like, if you leave the learning to the school, that's not going to go down well. If you leave, diagnosing a child only to the school, that has a chance of being slow, that has a chance of mucking up, that's a chance of not diagnosing the right thing. You have to stick your foot in the door, being as annoying as hell, but find the answers. Why? Because it's your child, because it's your responsibility to find those answers. So the main two things my mum really learned is, first, you've got to take responsibility of the learning, responsibility of, what's wrong with my child? And really realise that as a parent, you can make so much effort in improving it. So that's it. Those are such key lessons I've learned from my mum. And she didn't realise that because, look, you don't get educated on these things. People don't just tell you these stuff, but the most important thing is, look, take responsibility for the learning. Don't, like, when the school says stuff, find the answers for yourself. Dig deep. Do the extra effort. And also, after I got put into my dyslexic school, she threw me in I was like 12, 13, maybe 14 at the time. I was a bit bored. My brother was into the gym, so I was kind of like into going to the gym. And what my mum decided to do, I love sports. She threw me into basically boxing. I kind of wanted to go boxing, but I was never speak to her. My first day there, the head coach there asked me my name. I said my name is Alex. Why? Because I couldn't. I stuttered every time I said my name, Theo, because it got down, and I couldn't say the sound. back then for some reason. So I said my name was Alex, and I was at that club for 6 years, and every single day they knew me as Alex. They didn't knew me as anyone else. But she drove me there time and time again, like multiple times a week, because it was something else I'm interested in. Find someone's passion. Find something else someone's interested in. Makes them build self-esteem in something that doesn't involve around English reading or writing, because that's critically important in building character. So those are some lessons that what I've learned from my mum, and I think there's such key lessons. If you're a parent and wanting to help your child, if you're a parent and wanting to best support your child, firstly, realize, look, it's your child. You have the ultimate say in things. Secondly, take responsibility for your child's learning, for your child's difficulties, and really take accountability and finding out what's wrong with this. When I say wrong, why is my child acting this way? And thirdly, find your child's passions. Find what they love to do. Find what that really gets them up early, that they're excited to do. Something they can build the self-esteem around that's not involved any reading and writing, because that's one of the most important things, is them believing in themselves. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Take care, farewell, and bye.